Hackensack Meridian Children's Health is comprised of 2 nationally ranked children's hospitals by U.S. News & World Report and are number 1 in New Jersey. K. Hovnanian Children's Hospital in Neptune and Joseph M. Sanzari Children's Hospital in Hackensack, as well as pediatric inpatient and outpatient services at JFK University Medical Center in Edison. With access to expert pediatricians and over 200 pediatric specialists across the state, Hackensack Meridian Children's Health prides itself on offering specialized pediatric medical care and surgical expertise. To learn more about Hackensack Meridian Children's Health, visit hackensackmeridianhealth.org/kids. Welcome back, everyone, to the Mom with Moms podcast. We are here in Red Bank, New Jersey on a beautiful, kind of a dreary summer day, but that's okay. I'll take it because I love the warm weather. I love the summer. It just goes by so quickly. Here at our with our family healthcare series, continuing with Hackensack Meridian Children's Health, we're changing things up a little bit today to typically, if you've listened to a lot of our podcasts, you know that we have different providers on them. We talk about different children's healthcare topics and sometimes maternal health. But today we are actually going to hear from one of the moms who has had some experience work as a patient or as their children being a patient at Hackensack Meridian Children's Health and sharing their really incredible story of a pregnancy that was challenging and high risk, and what has come of that. So, as a quick intro, in early 2023, Allison Adams found out that she and her husband Dennis were expecting their 3rd baby girl. She was excited and a little overwhelmed because their middle child was only 6 months at the time. On early scans, her doctor determined that it was likely that she had placenta accreta. She began a health journey that today has brought her to found an organization that honors her daughter, who turns 1 next month, and will help to fund research and the training of healthcare providers who treat mothers with placenta accreta. Allison, welcome. Thank you for joining. Tell me about your pregnancy. I guess, so this was your 3rd pregnancy. Did you have any complications with the first 2?
I did. Okay. I had preeclampsia.
Okay.
Postpartum preeclampsia. And then with my 3rd pregnancy, you mentioned we found out we were pregnant fairly soon after our middle child's birth, which was exciting, but, we were a little trepidatious, right, about the timing.
That's a nice word to put it. I would have been like, all right.
I know. I think we started
never sleeping again.
Sleep training 6 months old, like the day I found out. So I was like, we better expedite the sleep training.
Did it work?
Quickly. It did, actually.
Really?
Yes.
I never did that with my kids. That's like a new thing, I think.
I think it is, and you know what? I'm a believer.
Yeah, most moms say the same thing. It just wasn't common. Like when my son is 20 and my daughter's 9, it just wasn't. And the social media wasn't I think that when you found out about things, it was literally through books.
Yeah, or
you know what I mean?
Word of mouth. This worked for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's just a different age of rearing, smaller children, and that there's all resources that are available to moms that weren't, and so that's great that you can have a schedule and have
yes.
you can plan and not have to worry about losing sleep.
Schedule was critically important.
Awesome.
When we found out that we were going to have 3, I guess 4 and under, and throughout kind of my life and my pregnancies, I've been very much interested, I would say, in my medical care.
Okay.
So wanting to know the details, wanting to ask questions. And my 3rd pregnancy was no different. One of my early scans indicated that I might have something called placenta accreta or placenta accreta spectrum, which essentially means that your placenta, while it's supposed to be in your uterus, it grows kind of into the uterus and sometimes outside of the uterus.
Wow.
Which is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last percentage I saw was 0.05 or something very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
So when the words came out of the doctor's mouth, I was surprised because...
But you knew what it was already?
I knew what it was, but I didn't think that it would be for me. And we followed up with a number of additional scans, and then ultimately my local OB said, I think you need to look at different specialty like MFMs that have experience in delivering these types of cases. And ultimately that's what I did through Hackensack Meridian Health. And at that doctor's appointment at about 16 weeks, they confirmed I had placenta per accreta, which was the worst of the three kind of types, if you will.
Okay. And so what does that mean? Why is it the worst?
So it had already grown outside of the uterus at that point early on in the pregnancy.
Okay.
And based on ultrasounds and MRIs, the thinking was that it was invading my bladder.
Wow.
But the interesting thing about it was that I felt normal. I looked normal. I felt normal. I had no symptoms. I would never have known anything was amiss.
And how many weeks was this?
Well, early scans were 13 weeks,
Okay.
and then 16 weeks they confirmed.
Okay. But at that point, you're not like maybe you felt normal because you're not like
As pregnant.
Yeah. Right? So.
But I will say throughout the pregnancy, felt like a normal pregnancy, which was a very strange experience.
Knowing that something could be terribly wrong, but also that you're not
Having
getting
your
any
doctor
warning
be like,
signs.
Right, your placenta is invading your organs, but you're walking around like a normal person. You know what I mean?
Interesting. So what happens at 16 weeks? What do you do first?
So essentially, the doctor that I saw who continued my care throughout my pregnancy said, you need to take it easy. So limit stairs, limit lifting, limit jumping. And again, when you feel fine and you have 2 other small children, that in itself is a little bit challenging to kind of mentally wrap your head around that now I have to be cautious. And primarily what he explained was that the risk of this disease is hemorrhage. So the mother's life is at risk because of the likelihood of hemorrhage.
Okay.
And it's because with the disease, your placenta and your body is generally more vascular when you're pregnant, so like producing more blood. But when you have this particular disease, it's kind of on overdrive. And they almost liken it to like a cancer. It's growing not in the appropriate way.
Interesting.
And so that was the first step, was essentially, work with this specialty group at Hackensack Meridian Health that had experience doing these cases and limit your activity.
So this is Dr. Patel who's telling you this initially?
So Dr. Patel was my local
Your OB,
OB
right.
who I had seen for prior pregnancies. And he, while he had experience with these types of cases, the doctor group that he sent me to or that he recommended, this is pretty much all they did.
Got it.
So it was just that difference in almost like familiarity with the disease. And, I'm still so grateful to him for kind of making that recommendation and communicating to me about that, because I didn't know what to do.
Wow. So is there any risk to the baby?
So the largest risk is prematurity.
Okay.
And it's interesting because your placenta is doing crazy things, but the baby's thriving. So like on all the scans, it would be like, well, your body's a mess, but your baby's doing great.
Right.
And so the risk of prematurity comes because of the risk of hemorrhage. If the mother is hemorrhaging, you have to deliver the baby at whatever time that is. And it could be later in pregnancy or it could be earlier in pregnancy. You just don't know.
So they wanted you to limit your activity, but not specifically. I've actually heard that they don't do bed rest anymore. Is that true? I mean, do you know?
I feel like I've heard. I feel like
actually, I think we talked
doctors-
about this on the podcast. I'm pretty sure I can confirm that I'll go back to one of the OBs, and I think it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
I was on bed rest as
Were you?
Yeah, with
hard.
preeclampsia, and also I had that. What Kate Middleton has, the hyperemesis that was awful. Only with my first son, not my daughter. For some reason, I don't know why, but like horrendous, awful. Only till 14 weeks, thank God. Some people have it until all 9 months. It's it's
debilitating.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like you cannot keep it. I couldn't keep water down. It was
Right.
insanity.
But like similarly, the baby was probably doing great.
Totally.
And you're miserable.
And also, this is unsolicited completely. I'm not a doctor at all, but I have also asked some physicians, and I don't think it's confirmed, but they do say that if you are really nauseous, they've noticed that like a lot of the mothers that will say that they have symptoms of nausea, that they like the babies are usually pretty healthy. It's like a good sign because they're higher like
Yes.
HGH levels.
Yes.
So I don't know. But,
Means like your pregnancy is healthy. If
Right.
You're feeling nauseous.
Right.
Because that means your hormones are working.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Just a tidbit that I've picked up over the years.
Yeah. Learn all these things. The
Yeah.
process.
So you go at 16 weeks, you see this team of doctors at Hackensack Meridian. They put you on a like precautionary regimen of limited activity, and I guess you're seeing them weekly to check in. Okay. So what was that like for you? It must have been terrifying.
It was.
Okay.
You Google,
Mm-hmm.
as one does. And it's very rare. It's a very rare disease. There's obviously the 3 different types or levels. Terrifying to find out I had the worst one,
Yeah.
right? The unlucky. It's like there's a very small percentage that gets the disease, and then there's an even smaller percentage that gets it the worst.
Yeah.
And you're early on in your pregnancy, right? So it's all hitting you kind of at the same time.
And you're just like kind of like wanting to get to that 3rd trimester, I'm assuming, at
Of
least.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's scary because the doctors have to advise you on the risks to the mother and the risks of continuing with the pregnancy. And one of the risks is like mortality, death, because if you hemorrhage and you bleed out and you don't get the care that you need,
Oh my God.
you die and your baby dies, right? Which is very morbid, and nobody really likes to talk about that, but that's a real possibility
Yeah.
when you're, have this type of disease. So that was a hard pill to swallow because I had 2
2
young
little
children.
kids. Yeah.
And you want to be healthy for them.
And you're having to like say like, no, I can't pick you up as much. A 6-month-old, that's very challenging.
Yeah,
I would
that
assume. Yeah.
too was day to day very difficult.
Did you have help at least, like some
We did.
family and
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a lot of help, thank
Good.
goodness, family, friends, my husband, but that was hard on them too, in their own way, right?
Yeah, you just disrupts everyone's lives.
Yeah.
Right.
So ultimately, like following that diagnosis, we kind of had a moment of being like, okay, we've found the right doctors, we've found the right hospital, we're comfortable with our care and our plan going forward. And then it just became about logistics, kind of about like managing how I'm not able to do as much with the children. We ultimately did like relocate to be closer to the hospital.
Oh, you did?
That was a
Okay.
logistical component to consider, of course.
Oh, because you're in in a town in Monmouth County, and I could
Yeah,
see, like,
and
not-
just in general, like the risk of hemorrhage requires immediate attention.
Got it.
So oftentimes women with this disease are hospitalized prior to delivery.
Okay.
And so in theory, right, it's like you just want to be close to that hospital in case you need something. And in my case, as time went on in my pregnancy, I did have bleeding. And so I was hospitalized twice. And on the 3rd time, they kept me.
Okay. And how many weeks were you then?
28.
Okay.
So ultimately, again, throughout the whole process, feeling fine, but in the hospital.
So how long were you in the hospital for?
So it was probably a combined 3 weeks leading up to delivery.
Okay.
Between the multiple different hospital stays. But again, when you have this disease and you've been told hemorrhage is a very scary outcome, and then you have bleeding, you start to, it's like the mental toll was also equally challenging.
Yeah.
Of, almost relief when they kept me in the hospital at a certain point.
Where when you were bleeding, did you feel like faint or anything, or you felt fine? Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Huh.
It was honestly like what some might consider normal spotting in a pregnancy, but because this was my diagnosis, it wasn't a normal spotting situation.
Interesting.
And thankfully my doctors had experience in treating these patients, so they knew kind of what the path was and what to like look out for and plan for. So each time that I kind of had these episodes, they moved my delivery date up because it's a balance of wanting to make sure that the baby can grow, but also wanting to make sure that they don't wait too long and then put my life in more danger than it needs to be. So ultimately, I did hemorrhage in the hospital at 30 weeks. And thank goodness I was there. And they delivered in an emergency surgery, 2:30 in the morning. The doctors all came, and the treatment for placenta accreta spectrum, depending on the severity and the scans and what it looks like upon the doctor kind of actually seeing, is generally a hysterectomy along with a C-section. So I had the C-section hysterectomy, and then because of the hemorrhage, multiple blood transfusions.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Which was,
So how did they monitor it? Like, did you know that you just started bleeding, I guess, I'd assume, or? Okay.
yeah, it
Okay.
was
not pretty.
It was not pretty.
Not pretty. Okay. And then, so the baby was born at 30 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. So,
And the
wow.
placenta had invaded the arteries in my legs, which are very, like, they're large blood-producing arteries. So it was, in my case, especially challenging surgery because of the blood loss.
Okay.
So it's almost like I wish it would have invaded my bladder, because that's a little less problematic. But you just don't know, because, you know, the scans are only as good as what you can kind of see from the imaging.
So the placenta just kind of keeps growing, essentially, but not in the way that it's supposed to. It's just like...
That's my very basic understanding.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, I know.
It's like an alien invading your body.
Pretty much, yeah. Which I mean, not to sound silly, but like you kind of feel that way already when you're pregnant, right? Like what's happening to your body, and then add that layer, and you're just like, your head starts to spin.
Oh my gosh, that is terrifying. I'm so sorry that happened to you.
I mean, honestly, like, I'm sorry it happened too, of course.
Right.
But we're
best outcome
doing
possible,
great, right?
Okay.
And so
how's your daughter?
She's wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was born at 30 weeks. Any complications?
She was born at 30 weeks, no complications.
Wow.
Yeah, she spent 4 weeks in the NICU.
Okay.
With Hackensack Meridian Health.
How big was she?
And she was probably 2 and change.
Wow.
She was little.
Okay.
Yeah, but she did great.
She was strong.
Wonderful. And the NICU there was fabulous.
This is Jersey Shore?
This was actually at Hackensack University Medical Center.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so that's why you relocated up there.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That makes a lot more sense. Even so, like Neptune, I was thinking Neptune, it's still like not easy to get there from where you live. But
true.
Yeah. So, okay.
But yeah, just like wonderful care. I was in the hospital for 10 days following surgery. I woke up in the ICU, intubated, which was terrifying. But the baby, Claire, did
it's my mom's name.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
With an I or without?
With an I.
With an I.
Yeah.
Beautiful name.
Thank you.
We have Edna over here as part of our team from Hackensack, so I'm going to confirm. Hackensack, the hospital that she's was actually just rated #1 in the state, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. So, so you're in the best care, right, in the state, which was just tremendous. So tell me, so you go through all the blood transfusions, your baby's in the NICU. Are you there pretty much the same amount of time, or are you released after a while?
So I spent 10 days there.
Okay.
Claire spent 4 weeks. And it was hard initially. Like I think any mom that has a difficult delivery and a baby in the NICU, you're trying to heal yourself. You're trying to get physically to the NICU to see your baby, right?
Yeah.
So there's always that kind of push and pull. And in my case, I mean, I was in pretty bad shape. I had
Yeah.
like a wound vac, and I'm like dragging around a catheter and a wound vac, and but again, like, your body is amazing. It heals.
Yeah.
It, and again, with the little babies, it's just amazing how they grow and get bigger and stronger. And I will say, even just like the nurses and the care we had there, they were very sensitive, I would say, to the fact that like I was also recovering, and that made it easier.
Okay.
Right? So sometimes there might be pressure on breastfeeding or on doing different things, and I couldn't do it. My body couldn't do it.
Right.
And in addition, I think, to getting the good medical care, they also provided good just like care as humans, to just understand like
Empathetic
what was
people.
going on, right?
Oh, that's wonderful. So Claire comes home after 4 weeks. And tell me what that was like. Was it still kind of, are there any complications that you could perhaps from having this, or is it really just pregnancy related?
So it's just pregnancy related.
Okay, I figured,
which
yeah.
is good and bad,
Yeah.
I guess. But I have a big scar. I don't have a uterus. I don't have one of my ovaries, and most of my cervix, because the placenta had kind of entangled in it. And so
Wow.
the safest way to kind of remove the placenta is just to remove what's attached to it. But day to day, I feel good. I feel normal. I have no complications. Claire has no complications. She's a little delayed, of course, but like, she's happy and thriving. And I think that the biggest thing that I think about now, of course, is like, we're doing great, we're doing wonderful, but there's moms going through it
Yeah.
right now all the time. And there might be women getting pregnant or wanting to be pregnant. And I do think it's helpful to know about this, even though it's rare. And I think it's also helpful to know that it can impact people on their third pregnancy.
Is that common that it happens like?
Well, in my very rudimentary reading prior to going through it, I thought it impacted women that were maybe on their 5th, 6th C-section, right? Because prior C-sections are a risk factor.
Interesting.
So the more C-sections you have, the more likely your percentage chance of having this type of complication.
Huh.
I didn't really know that. I had 2 prior C-sections. Also, any uterine surgery, like a D&C or any other types of kind of uterine surgeries, can also put you at risk. And I had 2 prior D&Cs due to miscarriage. So the combination of those put me in a risk bracket that I didn't really understand until kind of after the fact.
So it's detected through an ultrasound? Okay. Got it. Huh. Wow. Is there a support group that you were able to create, and or was there one, that you were able to become, enter into while you were going through this? Okay.
Yes. You'll find a number of groups on Facebook. And they are helpful because it is other women going through the same thing.
Okay.
It can be helpful. It can also be scary.
Yeah.
Because ultimately everybody's experience with it is going to be different. And even the doctors, despite their best efforts through the ultrasounds, won't really know what's exactly going on until they can kind of see. And so while for me it was helpful to know what other people's paths were, it didn't necessarily mean that mine was going to be the same. And in my case, it wasn't, right? And that's kind of what I've found in talking to other women. But I have connected with some patients at that same hospital, working with my same doctors. And we've been able to kind of bond over like, well, which hospital room are you in? And which nurses do you have? And things like that. And being able to give them advice on like, what they might need or want after delivery. That's because it's a bit of a more difficult recovery.
Right.
Like, what are the types of things that might be helpful? So,
and this is something too that like takes you, like uproots your life in such a big way, because not only do you perhaps need to be hospitalized for several weeks on end. Are there any moms that go full term, or is it very uncommon?
So I think it's uncommon in the sense that most doctors recommend like more conservative management, which generally means like an earlier delivery. But like, yeah, there are moms that go to like 37 weeks, which is like full term. But there are also moms that might have placenta, accreta, or other types of abnormal placental complications, and they don't even know until delivery.
Okay.
And that can be challenging too, because then that preparation factor isn't there necessarily, right? So in my case, when things happened to me, everybody kind of knew what was going on.
Sure.
But there are some women, you might not see it on a scan.
Wow. Okay.
And then you have challenges with your delivery you just might not have anticipated.
Got it. Okay. So which brings me to, the how you're giving back and what you're doing with Hackensack Meridian. So tell me about the fund that you started.
Yeah. So, obviously this was a very, I would say, painful journey for my family going through it. And when I was still in the hospital, my husband and I looked at each other and we were like, we have to do something. We don't know what that is right now, but we felt truly lucky that we had the care that we did, and that we were able to have the support that we had, and that I was healthy and the baby was healthy, which is the best outcome you could ask for.
Right.
And so fast forward a few months later, I reached out to Hackensack Meridian Health to say, we'd love to do something on a regular basis, whatever that looks like. Can you help me find a way to do that? And they said, well, there's nothing specific for this particular disease. You could make something. And I said, okay, let's do that then.
Right.
Because while all kind of prenatal and maternal complications are like horrible and challenge for any mom, like this was obviously something that was very particular to me and very rare. And so any support through research and support of the hospital that we could do, I really felt strongly that I wanted to.
And more so to spread awareness, because like you said, some might not get the diagnosis like you did.
Yes.
As early on, right? It could be missed. So,
yes.
Okay.
And that was another component, is I stayed in touch with the nurses there, and they would email me and say, we have a patient, would you be open to speaking with her? So I've made some nice pen pals and women that I've connected with just in the last year that have had, like I said, similar experience. And so that's been another part of this, right? It's not just, medical research and training. It's also how I can directly interact with the women to hopefully show, like, it's scary in the moment, but you can get to the other side, and there is, your life will be normal again, and your family's life will be normal again. So ultimately, we created this fund, and we are going to do our first kind of event, if you will, to raise money and try to support research, which is so critical, because as women are having more C-sections, the likelihood and the chances and the risk increase. And that feels to be a trend in kind of maternal care in some cases. So the event will be a spin class. And it's a spin class because prior to having children, I loved to go to spin classes.
Okay.
Obviously, once you are a young mom or have a mom with young children, your time is less.
Yep.
But following this pretty traumatic pregnancy, delivery, I really committed to trying to go to a spin class at least once or twice a week. And
That's great. It's just good for your mental health
yes,
and all of it. Yeah.
It was like the lights turned on
Yep.
in my whole brain and body. And I found the spin studio in Fairhaven, New Jersey, locally. It's called Ride by AB Fitness. And it's created by women, other moms. It's like a locally owned business. And I just like became alive again, I feel like, going to these classes, and connected with some of the instructors who are also moms of young children. So it was like, did your baby sleep tonight? No? Okay. And it was just really refreshing and amazing to go and be a part of that community. And so I asked them, I'd love to try to do a charity ride. And they said, great, let's do it.
Oh,
so
that's so nice.
we're going to do that on August 11th, 10:30 a.m. It's a Sunday. And I'm just really excited to be out of the hospital this August, to have a healthy baby, to be riding a bike.
So it'll be the 1 year. And okay. Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations for, making it through such a trying and I'm sure even too post-traumatic, year where you're just not only postpartum, like in regular postpartum,
Yeah.
you are dealing with like a lot of different emotions that have been very traumatizing, I'm sure. And so we'll put in the show links where to get information about the fundraiser, the event itself. And then there's also a dedicated page through, I think, Hackensack, where you can actually get more information about how to support this fund and help moms. If you are listening and someone that has gone through this and would like to support, or just this resonates with you, then ways to get involved, I'd assume, right?
And just connect, right? It's
yes.
a nice way to connect. And it's rare, but you find as you talk to women, it's not as rare as you might think, right? And so I feel like just even having somebody to talk to if you're going through it is helpful.
It is helpful. It is. It's it's very healing to talk to people and just like share your story and, get some sense of like, oh yeah, like I'm not in this alone. It's just,
I wish I had kind of had that, right?
Yeah, because it's so isolating in so many ways.
Yes.
Just being pregnant and having babies and all of it. So, add what you went through on top of it. I'm sure it was not easy. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Again, I'm so sorry that it happened to you, but it does have a great ending. And can't wait to see a picture of baby Claire.
Yeah, she won't be doing the spin ride, but she'll be cheering me on.
Aw.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your other two are happy that they have a new little sibling.
They are, and I think they're also happy that like life has returned to normal and mommy can pick them up.
Aw. And how old are they?
4 and just turned 2.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. So you have your hands full over there.
Yeah, but they're sweet girls, and it's
3 girls. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very nice. So lots of hand-me-downs and
yes,
lots of playmates. My daughter's always, she said, why didn't you have another baby? Like, she's always mad that she doesn't have a sibling to play with. She's like essentially an only child because she has 2 older siblings that are like, one's like a very young adult, one's a teen. But I was like, sometimes you get siblings and you end up fighting with them.
There you
So
go.
you never know.
She can come over to our pink playroom and join the gal gang.
Yeah, she has lots of cousins. So,
That's nice.
So all right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to put all the information where to find the fund and more information about the hospital system, the doctors that you saw, and where to connect with any questions. So, thank you so much. Coming up this August and September, we are unfortunately, no matter which way you look at it, back to school. It's bittersweet for me. I like to get back to the grind because the summer's a bit more flexible, but I do love the summer, so I'm kind of bummed that we're thinking about that already. But that's okay. We are planning a big event for the fall, so we put some information out there, but in the coming weeks, we're going to officially post registration links for our Fall Fest, which is Sunday, October 27th at Bellworks. This is probably I think it's probably going to be our biggest event yet. We've added a lot more fun activities to our where we do normally do like our outdoor touch a truck zone. So we're adding inflatables this time. So lots of bounce houses. I've had a lot of requests for that. So I finally bit the bullet and I'm doing it. I'm a little nervous, but these kids are wild on those things.
I know, but I've heard the touch a truck is legendary. I've heard many parents.
Oh yeah,
it's an awesome thing
yeah,
to do.
yeah. No, we yeah, it's a big hit with especially the girls too, but the boys they love it too. So we're adding that, and we're doing a petting zoo this year. We're also doing something really fun that I I have to figure out the details, but we're doing like a pumpkin scavenger hunt. So essentially, we're going to hide like hundreds of little tiny pumpkins, and then some of them will be marked with different prizes, like in giveaways and stuff like that. So, the very least, the kids will leave with a little pumpkin, and the most, sometimes they'll get a little giveaway from different businesses that are participating. So we're excited for that. We're also adding costume contest. We'll have a DJ. We do have one of the radio stations that's coming. So a lot of new things to it. So I'm very excited about this one. So we've been planning that all summer. So look for that for details and how to get tickets to some of the activities. And yeah, just enjoying what's left of the summer in Monmouth County and planning for what's ahead. So we'll see you soon, moms. Thanks for listening.